Welcome to another Demarcation Media Dust It Off video. So this was going to be December's video, but as some of you know, I'm switching this to a bi-monthly series instead of a monthly for two reasons. First being these videos take a lot of work, and second, they're among the least popular on my channel. So those two things paired together makes it difficult to crank out one every month. But I definitely am going to keep making them. So we're just switching to every 2 months there will be a Dust It Off. And so this was going to be December's. I wanted to do a photo similar to this one of Chief. You know, he's in the snow. He got the Christmas hat, kind of have it be Christmas themed. But I forgot that I had given away my little Christmas hat piece and it was too late to order another one. So we moved it to January. And what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be using baking soda to make a snow scene. And I've kind of got a little bit of a setup here. I was just kind of testing things out to see how I was going to position the figures. But what we're going to do is I'm going to take all of this out of the way and we're going to cover this whole little white piece of plastic here in baking soda, and we'll turn that into our snow landscape. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove all these guys real quick. And as you can see, I'm not doing this in my studio for a couple reasons. First of all, it takes more space than I've got in my studio. And second, baking soda, baking powder, whatever it is you end up using, I don't think baking powder scales correctly, but baking soda is a big mess. And where I have my studio has a carpet, and I don't want to get it on the carpet. So now we've got our nice clean area to put our snow. We're gonna go ahead and open this up and just kind of pour it out. Looks like this has gotten a little chunky, which might prove to be a problem, because the whole reason I'm using baking soda is because when you get it up close, it has the texture and scaling of the grain that we want. I mentioned baking powder before, and I think baking powder has a bigger grain, which means when you put your figures in it, they're going to not look properly sized because the snow bits will be too large. It's the same with sand. If you just take your figures out on a beach, typically the sand is not going to scale correctly to the figures. The grain will be too big and it'll almost look like a pile of rocks instead of actual sand. So you want it real fine. You spread this out a little bit. Using a spoon works the best. If you use your fingers, not only does it really stick to you, but it'll have your fingerprints in it, and that's not what you want. Make sure it's spread out fairly evenly. We'll have to position it more because obviously there's spoon marks, and so that's not going to work. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reset up the scene that we had before, but in the snow this time. Okay, so now I'm going to speed things up a little bit and get all of the stuff, all the figures, the set pieces, all of that back on the snow. So here we go. So right now, this is what we've got.
You can see I've set up the figures again in the same way that I had it before, roughly. And then what I've also done is I went ahead and sprinkled some of the baking soda on top of mostly the hog and the stack of junk we have the Spartan hiding behind, but a little bit on the Spartans as well. I did not put any on the hunters on purpose because I want them to look like they've been moving around a whole bunch. And if they're covered in snow, obviously they're not going to look like they've been moving around. But the Spartans have been hiding back here for a little while, so they've got some snow on them. Probably too, if they were driving that warthog and it crashed, that probably got some snow on them too. So just making sure that you get the snow not only on the ground but on top of stuff as well. It is showing up as kind of yellow, but you'll see in the end photo it is not yellow in the slightest. So now I need to go ahead and grab my camera and see if this setup works. So I'm going to be using my trusty Nikon D7100. This is what I use for pretty much all of my photos. And I have a 60mm macro lens on here. That's also usually what I use to shoot all my photos. I do have some other lenses, but I don't think they're going to be real helpful here because we're working at such a small scale. The macro lens is really what I'm going to use. And then along with that, I have this. This is a light therapy lamp. I got it at a consignment store I used to work at. And it's really meant for you to set it up like in the wintertime when there's not as much normal sunlight, and you'll have it shining on your face. And it'll like help you not be depressed in the winter. But it's such a bright light, and it can change your brightness, and it can change how cold it is. It's such a bright light that it works perfectly as kind of a studio light to light up photos. So that's what I'm going to be using as well. I'm going to have to hold this up over top. And yeah, we will see what we can come up with. So I think we've got a winning shot. So remember when I said I don't think any of the other lenses would be helpful? Apparently I lied, because what I ended up having to do was switch to my 35mm lens. Now this is a lens that's usually used in like portrait photography, stuff like that. It doesn't get in super close, but it gets in close enough. And because I had so much going on here, especially because how big the hunters are in the background, I needed to be able to get the silhouette of the hunters in the background, as well as get at least a little bit of the front of the warthog, so you know it's a warthog, and then fit in the two Spartans. All of that needed to fit, and the macro lens was actually too close, and it was blurring out the background a little too much. It was not letting me get the two Spartans the way I quite wanted to. So I decided to try switching it, and it actually worked. And I think, like I said, I think we've got our winning shot. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take it over to Photoshop, and we are going to see what it looks like in there, because we need to add some falling snow effects. We need to make the visors glow, and there's going to be some color grading that's going to need to be done, because using the therapy light, I set it over there. Using that worked really well, but it also didn't quite get the snow light that I wanted. Because you know, when it snows, there's kind of like, there's a light to it. It's kind of dulled. Everything is a little bit softer. It's a little blue. So I want to do that in Photoshop as well. So that's what we're going to go do. We are going to move over to Photoshop and finish up this photo.
I'll be doing an entire separate video on this effect that I'm doing right here. But what I'm doing, just in short, is I'm taking a picture of snow and I'm going to blend it so that it looks like snow again, because when you have snow against a really white background, then you have the colors reversed and it looks like ash, which is what I usually use it for. But today we're changing the blending so it'll look like snow again, and then we need to do some color tweaks because the kind of light wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be. It's almost there, but it needs to be a little bit more ambient. I think that's kind of what we're looking for here. Next, I'm going to add some blur on the top and the bottom of the snow to put the depth of field back in, because this image that I'm adding as snow is flat. So I'm going to just add what's called a tilt shift to make the blur feel more real, more like there's snow in front and snow behind. And then of course we are going to add the visor glows, because what would a picture with Spartans be without visor glows? And I'm pretty sure it's all obvious at this point that visor glows are pretty much my favorite effect. We'll also do some glow for the needler needles, but that's essentially the same effect, just drawing on the gray and then the pink and blending it. from here on out, it's basically going to be just cleanup work and then color grading to make sure we've got all the colors and light the way we want it for the final shot. Well, there you have it. That is how you do snow for your Megan Constructs photos. This will work for Lego as well, and basically anything to this scale. I bet you it would probably work for Hot Wheels cars, which are actually pretty fun to take photos of, by the way. Hot Wheels, Megan Constructs, Lego, anything around this size will work very nicely with this. And it is baking powder that you use. I think you might be able to use baking soda, but the grain, like I said, might be bigger, and so it won't scale as well. But yeah, like I said before as well, this is super easy, but just kind of on the messy side, so you're going to definitely want to do it somewhere that won't get real messed up by this stuff, because seriously, it gets everywhere. You should have seen my sweatshirt and jeans after I was done cleaning this up. I had white handprints all over them. It was kind of ridiculous. But hopefully this helped, and I would love to see if you guys use this yourself. Post it on either the Megan Constructs subreddit or ping me in the Discords, because I would love to see what you come up with. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.